ahead and share my screen. Give me a second. Okay, can you guys see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me put this into presentation mode. Okay. So my name is Celida Lizarraga, and I am one of the air quality engineers at the air district.
I wasn't sure if we were gonna, if
I
you
was just
wanted to
giving a
go
brief
first. Okay.
introduction. Yeah. I'll just go right into slides because you heard about Victoria as we go through them. So brief introduction. So I am first generation Mexican American. I grew up in Stockton, it's about an hour south of here. I'm the oldest of three. Fun fact, I live with my brother and my sister while they're going to Sac State here in Sacramento. I personally went to UC Davis and I graduated in 2021. So during the pandemic still, so that my last like year and a half of school was online. Um, During my time there, I also, so if you guys notice right now, I work at Sac Metro AQMD. When I was in school, I interned at the Yellow Solano AQMD, so the office is right there in Davis. So while I was going to school for my chemical engineering degree, I also did that for about a year. And that kind of opened up my path to where I am now. And when I graduated, I got hired on at the Air District pretty soon. I want to say it was about a month. Um, but I did start somewhere a little different. I started in what we consider enforcement. So I would go out and do inspections to make sure everybody was following the rules and listening to the different permits that we had issued for all the facilities. I did that for about a year, and then I pivoted a little bit, and now I work on our transportation and climate change division. So I do a lot of things that have to do with incentives now, and I do a lot of project management. Just some fun pictures on here. You'll see my family on there. We always match during Christmas, so we always have like an annual picture. I recently have gotten into baking for in like the last like 6 months or so into sourdough baking. So there's like a picture there. That's why I said I want to use more reusable Ziploc bags. Because you go through a lot of Ziploc bags storing your bread. And then I also read a lot. So there's like a picture from a book club I'm part of. And there's also a couple pictures from some school cool projects that I've seen. So the top right hand corner was like this giant hydrogen forklift that we saw at an event, and I got to test drive it, so that was pretty fun. And then at the bottom in the middle, it's like a construction piece of equipment. We went to go see what we call salvage, so the aftermath of it being destroyed and the big hole being cut into the engine. So that's me on top of it with my other coworkers. And then there's also a picture of me giving a presentation to our board. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Victoria Pena. I'm an air quality specialist here at the Sacramento Metro Air Quality Management District. A little bit about my background. I grew up in the Bay Area, originally in Richmond, and then I actually went to community college for 2 years and before transferring to Sac State here. Well, I went throughout the year. It's been a while since I graduated. But yeah, I got my degree in environmental studies with a minor in biology. Um, I actually, during college, interned at what is now called Cal Recycle, and they regulate solid waste here. So my entire career has actually been with government agencies. Because from there, I got a job with Department of Fish and Wildlife. I did a lot of fish population studies on the river and throughout the Bay Delta and even like in the Bay Area. That was a lot of fun. That was a great job out of college. And then I worked for the County of Sacramento Environmental Management Department, where I did solid waste facility enforcement. So, enforcing the state's regulations on waste. So, wrote the permits for like landfills, transfer stations, and composting sites. And then also did the like enforcing those permits. And now For the past 10 years, I've been with the air quality district here as a specialist. Originally, I spent most of my time actually doing enforcement. Like Celida mentioned, she started out at the district doing enforcement, enforcing like our rules and our permits of stationary sources of pollution. So like we issue permits, and I'll talk a little bit about it, I think, in the coming slide. But anywhere like a manufacturer here in Sacramento County that's emitting pollutants. Um, there's like chemical manufacturers. We have quite a few manufacturers here. We also regulate backup generators and boilers, which are like extra big heaters, coffee roasters, and those kinds of things. So I did that for the majority, and then I transferred into the Transportation and Climate Change Division, where I work now, implementing our incentive program for clean technology. I go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, a little bit more about me. I was like, those are my dogs, my Willie and Ellie. And then that is my boyfriend. We do a lot of hiking and outdoor activities. I think that's Crater Lake up in Oregon. I also love to bake. Um, that was one of my little baked goods. And then that's Celida and I at an outreach event for our Clean Cars for All program. And at the bottom, that's me inspecting one of our electric garbage trucks that we incentivized.
So this is just like a quick slide of the air district's vision. So our vision of the air district is clean air and low carbon future for all. So our goal is really just to continue bettering the environment for our community as a whole, and that comes from like the business aspect of things. We work with farmers in school districts and other bigger companies, but also on a community level. I guess we'll kind of see a little bit later on, and you learn about some of our residential programs that we offer to people. So really, we want to hit the county as a whole.
And then I just wanted to kind of talk about the Air District in case you didn't know like who we are. We're a local government agency, one of 35 local air districts in the state of California. And we implement state, federal, and local air quality regulations in Sacramento County to protect public health and ensure that the air we breathe meets these federal and state health standards. We have three main divisions here. We have the air monitoring rules, which they measure ozone and particulate matter, like particulate matter that comes out of the exhaust of cars or out of your fireplace. Um, they measure those kind of things throughout Sacramento. We have like a whole network of air monitoring stations that's connected to a larger network nationwide so that they can track air quality. We also implement rules or develop rules to comply with federal and state laws for air quality. And then our engineering compliance division, where Celida and I initially started here at the district, they issue permits to stationary sources of pollution, such as the manufacturers and backup generators. And they also conduct inspections to enforce the district's rules and permits. And then we also have our land use team and incentives. Celida and I are on the incentive side. Our land use team, or we have an in-house team of certified planners, and they work with the local jurisdiction planners in the county to review and comment on community project proposals. They also do like CEQA review for these projects, implement construction mitigation plans, making sure that construction sites are not just polluting everywhere, and review climate action plans for our region. So it's really having that team allows us to advocate for projects that are going to improve our air quality and transportation, especially. We have some pretty bad air quality here, but it allows us to advocate for project mitigation measures that impact our communities the most. Um, and then we have, the incentives that we give out for clean technology, such as like light, medium, heavy duty vehicles. So like electric Teslas, or like medium duty would be like an Amazon truck to electrify a fleet, or heavy duty vehicles like the large tractor trailers that you see that moves goods throughout the state. We also incentivize cleaner ag equipment like tractors, construction equipment like forklifts, buses, and locomotives. I think those kinds of fun things. And then we also incentivize the infrastructure support electric vehicles, so like charging infrastructure and hydrogen fueling stations. So those kind of things. Next slide.
So I'm going to go over a little bit over what I do at the Air District as an air quality engineer. Just a little bit of background. I did mention that I went to school for chemical engineering. The different branches of engineering we have at the Air District. A lot of my coworkers are civil engineers, environmental engineers, mechanical engineers, so really any realm of engineering. Um, I originally didn't really know what I wanted to do when I chose chemical engineering as my major. And I think that's something that kind of scares a lot of us when we're choosing something because it seems like such a big commitment. And when I first chose that major, I think I didn't really have an idea of how big the field was in like different things. So I think the most common idea is that chemical engineers, you're going to go into like petroleum, right? But I went into environmental. Another big one is like pharmaceuticals. But just to give you guys a little bit of background on that aspect of it. But at the Air District, I do a lot of project management. So I see projects from start to the very end, and that includes like application intake. And I will analyze the applications, make sure they meet all of our eligibility requirements. I will perform what we call emission reduction calculations, and that basically helps determine how much money we're going to give them. We'll run some calculations based off the equipment they're turning in. Um, and that will kind of give us based off the specs, right? So like the year, so the older it is, sometimes like the more money they get because the older it is, usually the nastier it is polluting. Um, and I will see that there, and then I will manage the project into contracting, and then also when they get their new equipment, I will also oversee that, and then also through the payment. So from the start to the very end. And then aside from that, we take a lot of trips to see new technology. So some pictures in here you can see at the top right hand corner, we went to go see a hydrogen bus station in Emeryville. So it's right next to Oakland with some of the team. At the bottom, that was some school buses that we went to go see. One of the school districts having like a ribbon cutting ceremony for the EV buses that they got. At the top left-hand corner is one of the projects that an air quality district sponsors. You guys may have heard about it. It's the electrification of a lowrider. Um, that was pretty cool. And at the bottom right-hand corner is just one of our outreach events for Clean Cars for All. But yeah, we're constantly taking trips every couple months. Like you saw in the beginning, I was like on this giant forklift. Believe it or not, too, we've even gotten the chance to test drive these giant school buses at these type of events just to kind of we can see what the technology can do. Um, Additionally, we also do a lot of community outreach and engagement. For example, we run a community lawn and garden program, and we recently launched it last year. Actually, no, it was 2 years ago now. We put together a community outreach event so that people could come and test out the equipment because it's all electric lawn equipment. So really quiet leaf blowers, really quiet lawnmowers, and a lot of people in our community had never been exposed to that. So we set up an event so people can come and test it out. We also do a lot of outreach for Clean Cars for All, which is one of our community programs. And those are pretty year round as well. And then lastly, we do have a lot of program leads in development. So we have multiple programs and different categories within those programs. and we kind of tend to shift gears and who leads them, depending on the solicitation round that we're going through. That way, everyone kind of gets exposed to new things, new projects, new leadership styles. Right now, I'm also currently working on a newer database that we're developing, so also just learning some new skills there.
And then a little bit about what I do, just to kind of touch on my background and like how I got into this whole government world. It's funny, like Celida said, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I originally started out in college wanting to be a forest ranger. So like I always knew that I wanted to do a job that involved being like at least semi outside, and then having an impact on the environment. So it definitely changed. Like I did some volunteer work when I was in college with the Forestry Service, and then learned quickly that I didn't want to be a forester. You spend a lot of time by yourself doing projects, and that wasn't for me. I'd rather be out like talking to people and doing more, I think, outreach type stuff. But eventually, it led me to my internship when I was at SMAQD, and realized like I don't want to be at a desk all day. I kind of want a hybrid situation where I get to go out and talk to people, and then maybe be in the office some of the time. So this job is involves a lot of that, and it's great. Um, but yeah, so a little bit about the specialist position. I do the contract compliance part of what Celida's project is. So Celida will send a request saying, hey, this equipment's ready for inspection. I go out and look at like the old tractors that's going to be turned in, that's polluting. And then I take a bunch of pictures, including, the emission tags. Um, and then once the participant gets like their new equipment, I go back out and take photos of the new equipment. Um, we do a bunch of, you know, we get to see like a lot of innovative pieces of equipment. It's really cool. You'll see in my picture, I think I put a few slides. We have a hydrogen locomotive that I'll talk a little bit about. I also lead the district's hydrogen infrastructure efforts, which is interesting. It's interesting challenges, but that allows me to see a lot of new technology and what is advancing in the hydrogen industry and what could potentially, we could bring here to the region to help decarbonize our transportation system. So like I said, we meet with new technology companies, including state and local agencies, kind of trying to advocate for this technology. We get to travel and see new, what's up and coming, which is really cool. And I get to do a lot of presentations to both public and private sector. Next week, I'll be traveling to Anaheim to present to the Hydrogen Infrastructure Summit. So that'll be a good time. And then a part of our work involves community outreach. So talking with you guys, talking, with people who we want to share what our programs do, and so things like that. Next slide. Oh, good. And so I wanted to showcase like examples of what we see. The top middle, the Calistoga Resiliency Center, is a tour that I got to go to Calistoga. They have this microgrid basically that because we're having so many power shutdowns from PG&E during the high wind events, and to help prevent wildfire, like fire from PG&E's outdated infrastructure. Unfortunately, they built this resiliency center, and it's basically hydrogen fuel cells. So they're powering the city when it gets shut down from PG&E. This microgrid basically uses hydrogen to power the city so that they're not, so the fire station, the schools, and everybody can still be running, um, which it was very cool. It's a very cool project. And then to the right is Sierra Northern Hydrogen Locomotive, which is out of the port of West Sacramento. On the top is the old locomotive switcher, and then on the bottom is what they replaced it with. They actually took that old um, locomotive and they just kind of gutted it. Like they took the dirty engines out and replaced it with hydrogen fuel cells. So it's run on hydrogen and it's zero emission. And it's here at the Port of West Sacramento. And they're in the process of building 3 more. Um, and then in the middle and the bottom, I got to see an electric tractor demo. I think that was in Napa, and that was very cool. I presented last year at Climate Week in San Francisco on a panel discussing hydrogen opportunities. So that was very cool. So, next slide.
So like we've kind of been discussing, we offer a lot of programs at the Air District, a lot of projects that fall under these different programs. So the 3 main programs that we have from like our general businesses are our Carl Moyer programs, our Community Air Protection Program, and then our Sacramento Emergency Clean Air Transportation. So our Carl Moyer and our Community Air Protection Program are pretty similar. The guidelines tend to be very similar. The big component to these 2 programs is that it's a scrap and replace program. So if they're going to get a new clean tractor, they need to scrap an old tractor. Same with like school buses. If they're getting new EV buses, they need to turn in like old buses that are usually diesel. So you kind of get the idea with those. And then for our CCAT program, that one is not a scrap program. So people apply for funding and they don't have to turn anything new. They just kind of get funding towards new equipment. What same that one is more on-road stuff. So we see like a lot of like big rigs or vans, things in those categories. So like I said, those are more geared to like the public in terms of businesses. So they need to provide like they're an eligible business applying. But we also have some community programs. So we have our Clean Cars for All program, and that one is also a scrap program. That one, the people apply to turn in a car. I think right now it's about 15 years or older, so 2011 or older. They scrap their car and they get funding towards a new car. It needs to be EV or hybrid. I think right now it's about 12,000 that they get towards a new car. So that one, I know for that one specifically, it is geared to specific zip codes in Sacramento County, but that one's there. And then we also have our community car share program. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zipcar. So it's kind of like renting cars in your local neighborhoods and in your community. So we have a partnership with them, and this allows the community to go and rent out cars that are EVs to go and do their errands. So if you don't have access to transportation, this is a good way to gear towards that. And then we also have our commercial lawn and garden program. So this was one that we recently launched about 2 years ago. This one's also a scrap and replace program. So have you guys seen like in neighborhoods, there's always like the gardeners with all their equipment. It tends to be pretty loud, right? Because it's running on like gasoline and it also smells pretty bad. So this program, they scrap their old equipment and they get new electric gardening equipment. This one's also geared more to like landscaping businesses, but this year we're actually looking forward to launching a residential one that will open up county-wide. So if any of you guys have parents that want to get rid of their lawnmowers and get new electric ones, keep an eye out for that on our website.
And then we did add community greening projects as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a new one. We added it this year. So basically that is to greenify certain areas in the counties. So an example of an application we can get was like a neighborhood wants to plant a lot of new trees in a park or something like that. I think Victoria recently had a pre-inspection for one of their
Yeah.
projects, if you want to
So
elaborate a bit.
Franklin, yeah, Franklin Boulevard, in South Sacramento. I think it's at least a couple of miles long, project. It's pretty big. All along Franklin Boulevard, we are giving incentives for to plant trees along the sidewalks, so that there will be shade for, walking. So it's not so hot in the summer, and then also, if you ride your bike, stuff like that. But yeah, that's going to be an exciting one, and that one's coming very soon.
Yeah, so you guys kind of got a toe on all our different projects. This last slide is really just a picture of different projects that we've done. Like Victoria mentioned, we do also a lot of infrastructure in support of all this like EV equipment. So you can see some chargers are being pictured here in the top left corner and the bottom right corner. There's some school buses, there's some tractors. There's also the Tesla Pepsi trucks. You guys have maybe seen them around the county. Our district funded a couple of those, so they're fully EV. Some front loaders, so some construction equipment. We even do forklifts, so a lot of companies will get they'll scrap their old propane or gasoline forklifts and get electric ones. And some of our farmers will also get what we call UTVs, utility terrain vehicles. So they kind of use them as like they're kind of like four-wheel drive golf carts is the easiest way to explain it. And they use them on their farms to do different tasks. Uh, yeah, and I think we'll kind of open up the floor to any questions you guys may have.
Okay, great. Thank you both so much. Does anybody have any questions? I know I have a few, so if no one unmutes, I will start asking my questions.
I have a quick question. So I was wondering, like, considering current federal, like, cuts to government agencies, if that's, like, affected this one at all, and just, like, I was just curious.
It hasn't really affected us. I mean, our federal funding is a very small portion of what we do. So we're very fortunate in that. And at the end of the day, there's still the Clean Air Act, which we have to enforce, and comply with. So we're still good. And, our incentives really come from cap and trade. So I think, and they just renewed that to 2045, I believe. So there will still be money for projects like these and the air district.
Yeah, so most of our programs run off of grants, and our grants come from CARB, which is the California Air Resources Board. So a lot of it is state funding, and like Victoria said, our federal funding is actually pretty small.
There's a question for you, Celida, in the chat.
I can't see it. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can open the chat. UC Davis, one of my dream schools. Your favorite thing about Davis? Honestly, it was such a small town. It was very community focused. So I went to a really small high school. Like my graduating class was like 40 people. So initially when I went to Davis, it was really scary. Because I was in these giant chemistry and math classes, but everyone was so inviting and everyone was so friendly. So that was, I think, a big aspect of what I loved about there. Like I can't tell you how many times I would lose things and I would come back for them and it would be there and like someone would leave me alone. No, like, hey, I found this, like, here it is, like no one took it, or like I found this, come pick it up in room so and so. So I think it was just like the community aspect of going to that school.
I have a couple questions, but any of the students are welcome to jump in and ask at any time. Um, so I'm curious if your agency has explored like rooftop gardens or sort of like living filters, air filters as an option.
So our community greening, that would technically fall under our community greening projects. We just launched that program this year. So not to say we won't see it in the future, but it's definitely something we could consider at the air district if we saw an application coming for it.
Okay, great. Good to know. And then I was also curious about your incentive program. So I know right now it's more, or for the lawn and garden specifically, I know it's mo currently more focused commercially, and you mentioned residential incentives. I guess this is a two-part question, so I'll just ask the first one. Have you considered like having a tool library of sorts, so folks that don't necessarily want to purchase things or don't already have like gas powered appliances to give up, but still need to borrow them for like one or two things in their lawn? Is that something that you would consider doing?
That's honestly a great question because that has been posed as an idea kind of recently. We partner a lot with United Latinos, and they've kind of helped us organize some of our lawn and garden events. So I think it's definitely something that's feasible. Essentially, the way that would work is that we would basically fund an organization so they could purchase the new equipment, and then they would go about renting it out to the community. I don't see us in per se as an air district having like a hub at our office, right? But I think it'd be more so helping out an organization or a nonprofit to get that started.
Okay, well, my other job is a nonprofit that has a tool library already, so maybe we should
Yeah,
talk more in the future.
yeah,
But
definitely.
yeah, at Sierra Service Project, we largely just serve North Sacramento. So I think in other under-resourced parts of the city, like South Sacramento, could definitely use tool libraries, but there are definitely urban agriculture and other sort of nonprofits in South Sac that would definitely also be interested in working on that together.
Yeah, I think it's also a good exposure to the community. I think a lot of this EV technology is very new to all of us. So also kind of taking the initiative to purchase it can be kind of scary because we don't know what to expect. So resources like that I tend to help out the community a lot, kind of help expose them to it as well.
Mhm. I'm also curious if you've seen a measurable improvement in the air quality since the launch of any of these programs, or how you're measuring the difference from when you start and as it goes on.
That's a
I
good question. I I want to say yes. The air quality has improved significantly, but at the same time, like traffic hasn't. So like we have, we're in between Interstate 5, Highway 50, Highway 99. Like we have all of these intersections going through Sacramento, and there's like over 40 million vehicle miles traveled per day. And that creates, a ton of pollution. So it's like, while there have been improvements, there's also been setbacks. And so that's why we push for these um, electric or, zero emission technology. So I don't know
Thank
if that
you.
answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, and I figure it's pretty hard to measure as well. I did read that Sacramento was like in the top 20 worst air quality for
Yeah,
particulate matter. Um,
right.
I'm wondering what ways your agency could support people that have like negative health outcomes because of the air quality, especially in communities that are located near highways or like industrial sites that are putting more particulate matter into the atmosphere.
Yeah. I think that would be like our AB 617 community um, in South Sacramento. We work with them on projects and kind of like what do they want to focus on to mitigate, air quality. And that's how the Pepsi Tesla trucks came to be, replacing or removing, I think it was about 19 heavy duty vehicles, diesel vehicles from the road, and replacing them with electric that go through, these highly impacted communities. Um, so it's stuff like that, and then the community grading projects that we're starting. Um, it's those kinds of things that we're trying to push.
I do want to add as well, like we look at applications as a whole, but those that our place in those communities take priority, and those are the ones that are funded first always. And then we kind of look at other ones. So we do have specific regions in Sacramento County that we target to get cleaner
Yeah.
technology in.
So if a community member wanted to start uh, a greening project, what would the process be like? What would they have to do to get approval?
So we launch a solicitation every year. Typically, it's in the springtime, and that's kind of when we open up to the floor, to the community, and they simply have to get an application in. I don't know off the top of my head what the solicitation was and what was required this last time around. But typically, all the information is on our website. I'm including like what they need to submit with their application, what evidence they need to submit, or any plans that they may need to have. We also come out with like a resource guide or like I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's a giant document that we put together to guide the community on what they need to put together and different rules that they need to follow. So we provide the resources to people so they can submit their applications. Victoria just dropped a link onto it. So yeah, every springtime, typically around May is when we launch, sometimes earlier. Feel free to subscribe to our newsletter and you can get notifications.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I do just want to point out to the students that many of these incentive programs could be worthwhile for your parents or your family members. Um, the fact that you can get $12,000 towards a new car if your car is 15 years or older, um, and it's a significantly more sustainable car, I think that's definitely something worth spreading the word about to your families and community members, as well as if you are involved with any gardeners or you know any gardeners in your community, letting them know about the new residential program where they can trade in their current gas appliances to get electric appliances. I think that's also really powerful. So I really encourage you all to get the link from the chat and share it with everyone you know that might be interested. And does anyone have, oh, we have somebody joining. Does anybody have any final questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. I'm not sure who mentioned it, but someone said that they did environmental studies as their course of study, and I was just kind of wondering
Yeah,
like what that experience was like because I'm interested in majoring in that.
for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's why I went to Sac State because they had that program. And when I went, I'm kind of dating myself, but it was, I graduated in early 2000s and that was a new thing. It was a new program. It hadn't completely been built to or expanded to what it is today. It's definitely expanded and grown. And when I graduated, there was only the option to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree, which is why I minored in biology to make it a stronger science degree. But now they offer at Sac State, at least, they offer Bachelor of Science for that particular degree, um, depending on which pathway you want to take. But I loved it. And in fact, I work with several individuals that I went to school with. So we all have the same major and we're all here at the Air District. So it's pretty cool.
I can also add on because I studied environmental studies as well. I wish that I had minored in a hard science, just to strengthen, like Victoria said, but I was really captivated by the humanities aspect of it and sort of I didn't want to be stuck in a lab. I definitely have done lab work and I did enjoy it, but I like being outside and I knew that I wanted to work outside, which is why most of the work I do outside of Cal Center is environmental education, like outdoors. Um, and a lot of people will tell you to go for environmental sciences instead. But I do think that it lacks the humanities aspects. Like there's the like basic ethics class that you have that's like don't do horrible evil experiments basically, but that's kind of where it ends. You don't necessarily talk as much about like the communities that are impacted by some of our hardest environmental issues. um, and so if you are someone who cares about all of it and not just like the scientific, the hard and fast factual aspect of it, I do think environmental studies can be really beneficial. And like Victoria said, you can now get a bachelor's of science in environmental studies. If you were to go that track, it would have less of the humanities, but it still has more of humanities than just doing environmental sciences. And you would still have room to specialize, like if you want to study botany or something
Or
like that, like
policy, like,
or policy. Yeah, there's
yeah,
still a lot of room to customize your studies. So I would say go for it. I remember you asking about environmental law in another session. So it's great that you're thinking about this. But it also, I started out as a political science major, and clearly that's not what I'm doing. So your mind might change, and that is totally okay because a huge part of your college career is just like finding what feels good, finding what fits. Um, so you don't have to be like completely married to an idea that's going to decide the rest of your future like right now. You can give yourself time to figure it out. Okay, any final questions? Well, with that, I just want to thank Celida and Victoria so much for taking time to talk to us tonight.
thank
Really
you
appreciate your presentation, and I will probably be reaching out from my other work email to talk about a tool library collaboration.
for sure.
Um, So you two are free to hop off. I have a few reminders for the Young Climate Champions before I let them go for the evening. But thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
Thanks for
everyone.
listening to us.
We
Have a good
appreciate
one.
it.
Okay. This should be quick, just a few reminders. So I think most of you filled out the form with your preferred payment method for the stipend, but if you have not done that, please fill that out. It's in the last big email that I sent you. Also, if you have not scheduled your final project, if you or one of your team members hasn't scheduled your final project check-in, please do that ASAP. Just want to make sure that everybody is in a good place for their final projects. Um, Additionally, just another reminder that save the date. Our next and final field trip is on April 11th. It's going to be really fun. We're going to do a bunch of chemistry. We're going to have lab coats. It's going to be a great time. So I sent a link that talks a little bit more about the Toxic Crusaders program. But I will be sending another email with information soon because I will have to collect some information from you all to send to the organizers. They're asking for dietary restrictions and t-shirt size because I think you all will be getting some free swag in addition to a bunch of education about I think we'll be processing the chemical compounds that are in wildfire debris. At least I know that's what they've done in the past. So I think it'll be something like that. So it'll be a lot of fun. And if you will not be able to make it on April 11th, please let me know immediately. But in the next week or so, there will be some information coming out. Also, if you've emailed me in the past week or two and I have not responded, I'm sorry. We are currently hiring right now, and it has been a very busy time. Also, full disclosure, I am reducing my hours at Cal Center because I now have a second full-time job. So I may not be as available as I once was. I am still very committed to running this program and connecting with you all. So if you don't hear from me immediately, when you reach out, please know that I will get to you. Getting a few messages. Um, so yeah, Ella asked if it's possible for her group to stay after this to do the check-in. So everybody else is free to go except for Ella's group, so I can do their project check-in. But have a good night, everybody.
Uh, I have a question just
Bye.
about the process, and stuff.
Yeah.
So one of my teammates, I think their name is Serenity. Their phone number isn't listed on like the sheets, and I created a group chat with all my members, but like I couldn't. I emailed her and she didn't get back to me. So I'm just wondering if you have like her information, and then also I think half of my group is like out of the country for like the next month, so I don't think there's any available time slot that they can meet. So that's like the only issues that I have.
Okay. I will check the information I have for Serenity and see, but all of the information that's in the document with the groups should be the most up to date. So it might just be that they did not um, give me their phone number or update the document, but I'll double check. I did hear from Schlock that they will be out of the country. Have you all still been working on your presentation?
To be honest, we haven't gotten much done because Serenity has it's been like the contact with them has been like zero to none because we don't have their information. And then to be honest, Schlock has been is out of the country, so we just haven't had a good time to work. So like I think we basically have nothing right now, so it's just like hard, you know. That's why the check-in is like hard because like also most of our group isn't here.
Yeah, so why don't you use my scheduling link in the email that I sent to you all to schedule a one-on-one with me, and we can go over what you have so far and come up with a game plan moving forward.
Okay, okay, we'll do. I
All right,
think.
thank you. Okay, is this everyone in your group or are you missing somebody?
Believe we are missing, I'm not sure their name, but
Let me double check.
Nick, I think his Zoom thing just froze, I think.
Okay,
also Alexis, I believe.